Hello, and welcome to another MarketMuse Content Strategy webinar. This is your host, co-founder and chief product officer, MarketMuse, Jeff Coyle, and I'm really revved up for today's discussion and our special guest. Before I dive in, just a little housekeeping. This webinar will be available, as all historic webinars from MarketMuse Content Strategy, as replays, and everyone that registered will receive an email after this with links to the replay, which has all the details and any links that we reference throughout the discussion. And I'll just a quick plug, just go back and look at some of the recent replays from our industry visionaries, Kevin Indig, Chris Willis from AcroLinks, or my guest today. And then during the webinar, if you have any questions, please shoot them into the sidebar, and we're gonna get to as many as we can, either in line if they're relevant to what we're discussing, or at the tail end. And so, without that, for today's discussion, how to interpret really and react to Google algorithm updates and SERP feature changes, we really have the perfect guest. He's the Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder for Orbit Media. They're an award-winning agency. He's based in Chicago. He's really that full scope expert. Before introing him, I want to do a little bit of an anecdote, and hopefully this doesn't surprise him, just in a pre-plug of his book. And I've given away his book as gifts, right? And it's actually part of the MarketMuse employee onboarding is his book, Content Chemistry, which we'll talk about at the tail end. I've even given this book away to my wife. So that just speaks to its quality. I didn't tell him that. I just wanted to kind of surprise him on the spot here. And it's really practical. He brings the heat. If you've ever seen him speak, I just saw him speak in San Diego a couple of months ago on this or any other topics, Google Analytics, social media. Really an end-to-end expert. They say be a T-shaped marketer. He's a square. I'm a square. I love speaking with other squares on this podcast. So without any more delay, I'll introduce him, Andy Crestodina.
Thanks for that, Jeff. I don't know, chocolate and flowers are probably a better gift for the wife than like a marketing book.
Yeah,
Although, yeah, if she liked it,
yes.
we have the same taste in women, because I like nerdy. Like it's fun to be married to someone who would appreciate something like that. Like here's a practical guide on marketing, and she liked that. That's you chose well.
Yeah, there's a bookmark in it that says this is where he discusses basically the problem that MarketMuse solves. So it's been a fun coffee table book we've had for quite a while. So props to you on that. And it really dovetails, that level of expertise dovetails into our discussion today, because we're working with content, and a big thing that content marketers, content strategists, editorial teams who are kind of understanding that they need to speak to the needs of the user, what people care about, and that ties together with search engine optimization in a dramatic way and in a changing way these days, with whether it be content specifically or whether it be technical search engine optimization. So just to open up this discussion, I wanted to ask you, having been in this space for such a long time, seeing the different changes that you've seen, how have you changed your processes in working and reacting to updates? How have you seen the search engines change the way that they do their updates? And what advice would you give marketers who are in reactive mode on that front? So.
I love that we're talking about this, because I'm not the most obvious person to talk to about this in a way, because I really don't chase algorithm changes. But I have done SEO since the early days prior to them winning the battle to become the search monopoly. I remember SEO when it was Excite and Hotbot and AltaVista and Lycos, and it was so weird and so bad how it all worked. It was basically just keyword frequency and keyword prominence in these like 6 or 8 places, and you're trying to like, oh, 8's too many and 6 is too few. I got it. What's the Goldilocks magic number for just stuffing the phrase? It was horrible. That was like 2000 and 2001. Then, of course, Google won, and we ended up evolving our strategies. And I never really tried anything the least bit spammy. And so basically, every algorithm change has benefited my rankings and traffic ever since. Every algorithm change I like algorithm changes, because I'm not I've never done anything sketchy at all, until we'll get into it. Some of the more recent changes, algorithm changes, the last 3, 4, 5 years. So yeah, there's lots of people who could tell you exactly what the impact was to what type of sites for what type of optimization or over optimization 2010, Panda and Penguin. I never learned which was which. Intent 2013 makes a lot of sense, right? We got to pay close attention. We're getting better at understanding what visitors want, and we have to solve big problems for them. People who are writing deep content were still kind of doing well after Hummingbird. Fast sites did well, especially after Hummingbird. Relevance and content. Now we get to 2015 with RankBrain. The legend has it that Google always had a bias against using machine learning to improve their algorithm until this tipping point comes along and they decide that they're going to start letting the algorithm improve itself based on artificial intelligence or based on machine learning. So the machine has a bunch of inputs. The machine correlates inputs with activity. The machine begins to favor certain things that apparently now have causal relationship, which is we get to user interaction signals. This is important. User interaction signals. Does the visitor click from a search result? Did they bounce from that landing page? Did they stay on that page, and if so, for how long? And our hypothesis is that dwell time, the duration of time from that a visitor stays on a page after coming from search, has a strong correlation with rankings. So if authority and relevance is how you start to rank, dwell time is how you keep ranking. User interaction signals. So keep the visitor on the page, satisfy for their intent, make the content easy to consume. But then you end up with the more recent changes, which I'm not sure that they're major search ranking factors, but they are click-through rate factors, because the mega trend, and Jeff, you've seen this everywhere, stuff, just so much stuff, so many SERP, search engine results page, SERP, so many SERP features are appearing now in search results pages, like images, featured snippets, pages you might like, products, the map, question and answer boxes, knowledge panels. I've got a chart somewhere that shows there's 15 of these things now that are just, and I see new ones all the time. So that on the left is a screenshot of what a search result page looked like. I've been taking screenshots of SERPs for years. In 2013, that was the golden era. Remember Google authorship?
Yes, absolutely.
Faces, yeah, the author's face would appear there. It was great for click-through rates. It was great for content creators. It was great for publishers. They killed that probably because it's great for publishers. Actually, it's a good example. Why did Google authorship die? Well, it didn't improve click-through rates to ads. It didn't improve, it hurt time on page for google.com. People would leave Google and go to sites that were organically ranked. Anyway, also look at the prominence of the ads. They put a yellow background, remember that? 6 years ago, the ads were much, much more visually prominent. Visual prominence correlates with clicks. So the more they can make ads look native, it's almost like native advertising now, right?
Yeah.
They make them look native, they're more likely to get clicked. So, but the point about the pixel depth at which your top organic ranking appears is the point of these slides. 330 pixels from the top of the screen. Rank number one for that same phrase today, you're 1,000 pixels from the top of the screen. What happened? You've got 4 ads at the top, used to be just 3. You've got a featured snippet, then you've got Q&A boxes or whatever they call that. People also ask. And
PAA.
then the top, yeah, people also ask, PIA. It's a pain in the ass that they do that. And there we are, we're way down there. Look, so I think we've got another example of this. This is 2015 to 2019. Yeah, literally used to rank back in the day, we remember this. Old school SEOs remember 10 blue links. Search results pages were 10 blue links. Yeah, not anymore. Even if there's no ads, you ranked number one before. Now they found one person to advertise to, but you've got the featured snippet, PAA, and there's the top ranked site below the fold. Fold is not an imaginary thing, but it's an average thing. It's a real thing if you aggregate everybody. Well, I'll call the typical fold there at the dotted line, 630 pixels. So you've dropped 5, you didn't change in rank, but you've dropped 500 pixels. That didn't affect your rank, but it affected your traffic. Why? Because it affects your click-through rate. So there's research on this. This is a recent post. Rand Fishkin collaborates with JumpShot to analyze clickstream data only for browsers. There's a big gap in this data because we use this down here is a way to search. You see that there? You can't see it. Yeah, see that bar? That's not a browser. So there's a lot of stuff that's not in here. Plus searches don't always bring up mobile searches sometimes pull up apps. Anyway, so not everything's here, but enough is here to be startled or to really understand the mega trend, which is call it half of all clicks, or half of all searches, nobody clicks on anything. Your competition isn't the other publishers. The competition is Google satisfying the information, the visitor's info intent on the page. And then 6% are to other websites. Google owns a lot of properties, not just YouTube. They own a lot of properties, maps and news and all their websites, android.com, tons of stuff. 4% maybe go to paid, and the remainder, the table scraps we fight for, it's about 40% of all clicks for browsers, desktop and mobile, based on 1 billion searches that JumpShot got the data from. What do you think, Jeff?
So I think, unpacking a couple of things and very poetic in that, historically through 13 and 15, you could do the right thing. And that I'm in the same boat, it was do the right thing, write great content, make sure it's structured well, and you could be the winner and you can continue to win because you're not doing anything that could, turn you. And I love the difference you described between like panelization versus updating, because you were happy with the updates because you had already been historically doing the right thing. Now you're fighting for table scraps, as you describe it, even when you've got everything lined up right, it's a situation where you may be winning, but winning doesn't mean as much as winning meant before, right, unless you can still correlate that to the same KPI. I mean, I think that's really where we get to kind of one of the topics today is, with this, the sky isn't falling, I'll say, but certainly the real estate is getting tighter. When this happens, what do you do when you're in a situation where you haven't been penalized, but the world changed around you? And by the world, I mean, the way that Google's changing the search pages or the way that the competitive landscape has changed. What do you do in those situations where you've done everything right, but the world's changing?
Well, it's worth mentioning, and I like the way you put that. It might be like, it's the sky isn't falling, because those table scraps, the 40% of clicks from search, that's based on like 150 billion searches in Q1. I mean, there's massive amounts of demand for information from humanity on the internet. It's just, there's a lot to win still. So we have kind of an alarmist tone, but we all appreciate that there's still plenty of upside for marketers that do it well, and that's what we're talking about, is how to do it well. Okay, a couple of things. One is to protect yourself. So if your total traffic to your website is the sum of the traffic to each URL. Now, if you look at a lot of people's traffic on their sites, they get too much traffic from one or two traffic sources. A lot of sites are not diversified as if it was a financial portfolio. They'll get like 80% of their traffic from search. Okay, you have more exposure to changes. And you have a lot of exposure to changes if, when you look at your traffic, it's not just a lot of organic traffic, but it's organic traffic to just a few URLs. I've seen this. So you should have early warning systems. You should be prepared. You should know what the current performance is of these pages and kind of set up your analytics to send you an alert, or use SEMrush or Moz or something to track if there's a drop. But I know people who call and say, Andy, I'm panicked. I lost half my traffic. What happened? And it takes like 10 minutes to figure it out, or less. I mean, 5 minutes. You got to dig, but it's usually they had a couple of blockbuster pages that have now much less traffic. Why? They either fell in ranking, or just the SERP features have invaded, and now they're just pushed way down. So first of all, you should be diversifying your traffic sources, and you should be diversifying your organic, well-performing content. And there's no limit, by the way. I love to remind people of this. You might have a few pages that you're really excited about, you pay a lot of attention to because they're winning for you, and that's great. But you've got to keep making more. I mean, if you're serious about search, you should be publishing new content. This is the beautiful thing about content marketing. In advertising and TV, you buy time. In magazine and print, you buy space. But we are not limited by time or space in digital. You can publish there's no limit. What's the maximum number of URLs you can publish on your website? There's no maximum number. Therefore, what's the maximum number of key phrases and topics you can target? There is no maximum number. So keep publishing on more topics, fight hard, it's worth it. Publish more content and more key phrases and work at it. Don't stop. So those are some of the beyond that, we need to produce quality. You need to pay attention to user interaction signals. Are you covering the topic more broadly using mentioning all the semantically related phrases? I'm going to confess, MarketMuse is slapping my hand right now. I just put in a piece of content. My content score is horrible. This is like a 5-minute exercise that everyone on this webinar should do. I'm looking at MarketMuse critiquing beautifully a page I wrote, and I need help. I'm going to fix it. I promise, Jeff, I'm going to fix it. You just helped me because my content score is like a 10. I thought it was a good page. I'm going to improve it. So you should be using tools to measure quality based on the performance of other high-ranking pages. This is what a lot of people do. They get an idea, they write a page, they look at the page, they say it's a good page, but they don't ever really look at the other high-ranking pages for that. The best tools in this business analyze the other high-ranking pages for that topic and then make recommendations to you based on what's working. It's called semantic SEO. MarketMuse, of course, our host and your business is a good example of this. I can see that the high-ranking pages are actually correlating so strongly with the content score, and if I expect to rank higher for this, I need to improve my content score. So that's an obvious too.
Yeah, so anyway, one thing you mentioned was channel risk, and something always a key part is, if you have a diversified portfolio, but it's the part that isn't often talked to, because that's like, yeah, you want to have traffic, you want to have some paid, you want to have some social, you want to have some direct, you want to be, influencer marketing. Yeah, we all know that we need that. It's very hard. You need a diversified marketing team with a lot of skills. But one thing that isn't often touched on is the output of that content audit or inventory, which is going to identify page risk. You have pages that you're relying for too much of your traffic, for too many of your conversions. What do you do in those situations when you run into that to transition out of that scenario? Because this is how you respond to updates. It's to not get hit with them in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem with digital is that there are intermediaries between you and your audience. If the intermediary is a giant digital monopoly, you got a big problem. Facebook and Google are massive digital monopolies, and they are intermediaries that control your access to your audience. Growing your email list is disintermediation, because now you have direct access to your audience. Influencer marketing is different intermediation, because you're building a relationship with a brand, a person, a publication that has access to that audience that you want to reach. So the smart digital marketer tries to control their destiny and their future results by growing their email list, growing their relationships with influencers and editors, so that they're less beholden on Facebook and Google to send them traffic. Because Facebook and Google have one priority, and that is to make $30 billion every 3 months, or whatever the numbers are, astronomical. So yeah, so differentiation isn't to, oh, I need more, social organic reaches down, I need more search. No, really, disintermediation would be to grow that relationship with influencers and to grow your own email list.
Yeah, I think that's right on, and I think, like you mentioned, the amount of traffic that is still achievable with organic search is still a dramatic number. As and that's topic by topic, industry by industry. That's going to be, the number of clicks is still going to be huge, and that's something you're going to want to do. But can you put yourself in a situation so that one page going down, or a collection of pages, or even an entire topic, let's say a publisher moves in to a space and they're very powerful and you're not as powerful, how does that impact your business? Walking through these risks of standing still, walking through these scenario analyses of competitive threats, and just holding the mirror up in front of you, and make sure it's a real mirror and not a funhouse mirror, to say, how good is the content that I'm creating? All of these things are what you can control today. And I think that that's really where, you and I, from a strategic sentiment, align most tightly. And so when you're thinking about this, like, how can you compete for the things that will, give you that unfair advantage, give you the means at which to, the means to win the actual clicks, and not just, the rankings?
Yeah, if the game changed and now there's featured snippets, and featured snippets are, one can assume, part of a Google plan to reduce click-through rate to organic websites. So we don't love the idea that there's featured snippets in SERPs, right? It's probably, it's contributing to the percentage of searches that are zero-click searches, no-click searches. But yeah, if your key phrase is showing, if your target phrase or your topic or that thing that you've been ranking for is suddenly showing a featured snippet, you want to play that game? Okay. And I think SEOs get very excited about this, like, oh, there's an opportunity, and like, how do you rank number 0? And this will be fun. Okay, it's one of the new rules now, so let's play. First of all, you need to rank on page 1 anyway. Featured snippets are pulled from the organic listings of page 1 ranking URLs. My second tip is to have, there's 3 kinds of featured snippets, and one of them is the list, is to have simple formatting on your website so that it just shows the list without long paragraphs inside each list item. If it can extract from the page a short list and don't make it so short that the full list appears there. You want to get the click, so make it a little bit longer so that you get an excerpt of the list. And then finally, you can see how this text is bolded on the screenshot here from Consumer Reports. I think it's helpful to write content as if you're writing for the dictionary. Write semantically encapsulated chunks of meaning, right? How to wash a car. The best way to wash a car is blah, blah, blah. Consumer Reports is an exceptional website and dominant for a lot of reasons. But for those of us who are not famous websites, I think that you'll give yourself a better chance of winning the featured snippet through simple formatting and simple grammatical structures that say, a full complete question followed by a full complete answer. Don't chop up your meaning across different sentences. Make it easy for Google to extract the meaning. If you want to see if your sentences are overly complicated, there's a tool called Natural Language. There's a free demo of Google's machine learning language processor where you can copy and paste a sentence in there and it shows you the sentence structure. Looking at that, we should give you ideas on how you've maybe overcomplicated it. Keep it simple.
We'll include a link to that particular solution in the notes when we send that out, and I think that's great advice. And just to layer on what you said, it's also to look at your site and how frequently do queries that you perform well for have featured snippets, and how often do you achieve them? If you're 0 for the 50,000 words that you rank for, well, you might have a problem. If you're doing 4%, 5%, you're kind of in that you're in that really good zone. If you're higher than that, then you have structural integrity, and you can target this explicitly target this with your strategy. So that's, I think, some really great advice about formatting and really thinking critically about, are the featured snippets actually good in the SERPs that you care about? I think those are both ways to advance the game, advance your opportunity, and win more of the time. So I think that's all really great advice. So what other things have you seen from this of content strategy? So what do you advise customers? What do you advise clients or prospects, or when you're giving speeches about ways to think critically about content strategy and covering the entire buy cycle or speaking to user intent?
Yeah. Well, to give yourself a better chance of winning the click in a Google search result, I think that you can take 2 bites at the apple by making the article and then making a short video of you explaining the article and putting that video on YouTube and embedding it in the article. I've got examples recently where, like, oh, Google's putting videos now in the search result page. Oh, look, I won the video. I didn't win the URL article rank, but I've got the video in this little video carousel they make. So creating more formats for content, I think, can help. SERP features are to some extent just more formats, more types, more different forms of content. But that idea of clusters is something that you and I both love, because we've learned over the years that content that performs well isn't little separate isolated islands of content. What you want to do, I've got a weird metaphor for this. This is going to sound crazy. I don't really usually say this, but Hawaii is visible because of all the billions of tons of rock underwater. right? Your #1 page rank is visible because of all that other content that supports it that farther down. So if you expect to rank for something, it's really hard to rank for that if that's the only piece of content on that topic that you've got on your site. There's no other stuff around it that passes authority. There's no other stuff around it with internal linking and relevant, anchor text and all the, so when you have interrelated clusters of content, the visitor who land, we said dwell time is important. Rank brain, user interaction signals. If you rank for how to find an influencer, someone clicks, they land. If that page doesn't have any good internal linking, then you're less likely to have high dwell time because the visitor isn't as likely, right? You're trying to make your site like Wikipedia. Do you ever go to Wikipedia and you like suddenly travel forward in time by 45 minutes because you start reading about structural engineering and materials processing and different, plastic, bio, whatever. It's amazing, right? You get sucked in. Why? Because it's a cluster. It's a massive cluster of content. So content clusters have the ability to increase average pages per visit. They pass authority, not domain authority, but they pass page authority through internal linking. They have a chance to indicate relevance by using partial match anchor text, usually, right? You can produce content faster because you've got an image over there that works. This diagram can be repurposed over here on this piece. So if you're serious in this game, you're not making an article. You're making a group of articles that are all interconnected. And by the way, I would argue, Jeff, some of the things in your cluster aren't on your website. They're off-site publications on other websites. It's going to pass domain authority. If you want to rank for that phrase, you should be writing the adjacent topic articles, some of which should go on other websites.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it on so many levels. I love the analogy, that all boats rise. It's the most common mistake we see in content audit practices as well, where they're deleting content that is the rock formation because it's not, they don't know how to assess the fact that that's actually enabling those islands to be seen from above. And in addition, it's actually solving customer problems or reader problems as they go. So it's really assessing the quality of that content and its contribution to the mass of the story of Hawaii in that case, or the story of that buyer journey, or the story of that cluster. I mean, it's really, that's a great analogy. I don't consider it esoteric at all. I find it to be great.
It just sounds weird. I need a diagram to go with it. It just sounds funny. I'm like, Hawaii, you can see Hawaii. It's like, obviously.
Well, it's a great, it's a great question for you though, that is to say, it also tells the story that if you're writing content only chasing a search volume,
right,
instead of it being part of your package, that's a different methodology for a lot of content teams. Have you interacted with that, or have you had that happen?
Oh, I'm pretty much done with search volume. I don't believe in it anymore because if you go to, okay, so this is true for everybody. Anyone can do this. I recommend it. Anyone who's been chasing search volume, do this. Go to, assuming that they're connected, go to Google Analytics Acquisition Search Console landing pages, or just go directly into Search Console and look at landing pages. And when you look at the queries that any high ranking page ranks for, you're going to see that that page also ranks for dozens or hundreds or even thousands of other phrases. So when you are successful, you rank for hundreds of phrases, why would you bother paying that much attention to search volume? You'd have to look up the search volume of all those 100 semantically related phrases. So I'm at the point now where I'm just looking for some evidence that someone wants this. If I see my phrase suggested by Google as I begin to type a phrase, good enough, going after it. I'm going to target that because I'm not limited anyway. I'm going to write 30 articles this year or 50 articles, and it's not like this is my only shot at content. So yeah, I'm going to be every page that ranks. There's a study by Ahrefs on this. It's called like the also rank study. The average, also ranks for blah blah blah. Like I don't know what you call this, but we could share a link, or you could look it up. The Ahrefs also ranks for. I think the average page that ranks on page 1 in Google also ranks for 1,000 other phrases. Okay, forget search volume, because search volume is always exact match search volume, and nobody's searching for that thing in quotes. Like they're looking for the topic, they're looking for the intent. So yeah, spread your meaning across the topic, do semantic SEO, don't just write one thing, write a cluster of things, and set aside that obsession with search volume. Even if the search volume looks very low, I could show you examples of pages where the search volume for my initial target key phrase was like 10 a month, and it's getting 100 visits a day.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, you've explained it as eloquently as anyone could. Again, it really is setting it aside. It's to say, you can, in many of the solutions you mentioned, Ahrefs or Ochrefs, depending on
I know.
who
How
you
do you
speak.
say that, business?
I'm fairly certain that internally they sometimes say Ochrefs, but you know,
Wow.
I've heard it said in circles in jest that that's that, but who knows? Yeah, right. They know. They're probably laughing at me right now. But you can look at that traffic volume, and that's just the trackable traffic volume.
True.
We also measure that term pool multiplier that you can't track. Those are those one-off queries. They did another study that said 90% or more are one-off queries, and not, they're not going to be repeated. And so you want that page, if you're going to make the decision solely with keyword volume or search volume as your North Star, you're missing so much opportunity. You're also leaving yourself open to competitive threats.
Yeah, it's a weird idea that people think that it's really just about the key phrase now. So semantic SEO has been a thing for a very long time. So if you believe that it's about intent and semantics, you're not just targeting the phrase, you're targeting all the semantically related phrases, incorporating many, many more topics into your subtopics into your article. You're going to rank for 100 things. You're going to rank for 1,000 things. It's normal.
Yeah, and it's normal if you're thinking critically about the features that you should be lodged in, you should be
Yeah.
getting credit for. And so what do you do in a situation where you had relied too much? Let's just say we weren't thinking critically about this until today. So I can go back in time and I can see I had SERPs that I cared about. Now I've got some publishers writing about it, and they're taking up some organic space. I've got huge boxes of Google no-click influence SERP features, and by that I mean the fact that this exists means that less clicks will occur on that page. What do I do? That's outside of the influencer and the email list. What do I do to be thinking critically about that situation? Do I work around it? Do I build content that's going to get me those other SERPs and hope? What's the plan?
I think I think the fastest way to get a better result or defend your current performance is to take those good performers and go rewrite them. Don't update the URL, go rewrite them. Use MarketMuse to find the content score, or use SEMrush or something else. Use one of those on-page graders. Use one that analyzes the other high-ranking pages. A lot of them don't. And then understand really what all of the subtopics are. Go make that a better thing. Make that a more detailed article. And when you find the semantically related phrases and all those adjacent topics, and like you talked about the cluster, once you've got that, you're going to make it a better article anyway. Weirdly, when you understand semantics, SEO makes you a better writer. You're not keyword stuffing. It improves your quality because you're like, oh, an article about X is also about X plus 1 and plus 2 and plus 3, and I'm going to cover Y and a little bit of Z. And now your thing is like a much more detailed thing. The research exposed for you all the closely related phrases, the semantically related phrases. So build that thing up, and you're going to see that it's going to just begin to perform for many hundreds more key phrases. And in a lot of cases, I see an immediate ranking benefit. And I'm not saying like it's going to happen in a month. If I update an old, almost high-ranking article, I see the ranking performance within days. So, but yeah, you've got a great checklist here, Jeff. Take us through it.
No, I think that's what you just said is really interesting because there's so many editorial teams that are hesitant to update something that's performing reasonably well. When you've got to be able to think critically about how can I rewrite this, how can I improve this, how can I turn this one page into a collection of pages. I truly think that that's something that getting religion on that protects and does some of the things you said at the open of this discussion. It will automatically start diversifying those, diversifying that portfolio. And with the gaps and opportunities, the anecdote I always use, you were saying A and B, it's if you're writing great content about content marketing strategy, but you never mention buyer personas and you never mention target audience, is it really all that great? And that's what this type of analysis will surface. It's the fact, oh yeah, if you're a subject matter expert, those results, that information is natural. So those page level gaps, but then you've got site level gaps. You've got intent gaps. There's so many people that they're not writing the early stage awareness content because they think that all their content should immediately facilitate a sale, right? Well, or a lead drop. And it's like, okay, well, who's to say you're the best person to give that conversion advice? If you've never written any other stages of the buy cycle, why do you think you can just hop in and be the person that tells me how to compare CRM software products? I mean, you're not, the entire collection of your editorial publishing doesn't tell the story that you're the expert yet. So why would you expect to get put into that spot? I mean, and that's something that, that's the gift that keeps giving, is writing, mapping content to that user intent, targeting the right audience, writing great content consistently, updating content, and holding that mirror in front. And I'm interested, what are the factors you use to decide that something needs to be updated, or that somebody needs a different repurposed format? I love the idea of doing a video, or of doing a collection or a roundup that provides additional value. What is the trigger that says, hey, I need to do some repurposing here?
Yeah, well, if you've got there's different criteria for, I think, the video and the article rewrite. For the video, if you just take your highest traffic page and put a video on it, you've got a highly viewed video. It's like an automatic win. Take your best X and turn it into Y. That's like the formula, the automatic success formula in content, is to like turn, if this turns out to be the highest performing webinar, let's rewrite it as an article, a text-based article, or whatever, launch a podcast or whatever. Larry Kim calls them, everything in content is either a unicorn or a donkey. And when you find your unicorns, your job is to make baby unicorns. You could argue that the purpose of analytics is to find those top performers. And the best tactic after you have is to go reformat them, republish them in different, in different shapes and sizes. Okay, but to rewrite, what should you rewrite? I'm seeing the best results when I rewrite things that were performing really well and start to decline. So the pages, the phrases for which you rank high on page 2, the pages that were ranking well for a range of phrases in the top 3, and it's now declining. So it's like this thing was good, and now there's newer, better stuff coming out on that topic. And I think the durability of search rankings is partly a function of how much new stuff comes out on what frequency. If you rank high for a really obscure phrase in a sleepy industry, that might be really, really durable. But if you rank high for like a more of a news related topic, or something where there's like trends being published, or there's like innovators who are jumping in, making new stuff, then that rank is going to be less secure. So you might have to rewrite more frequently. But yeah, I like to rewrite the almost high ranking thing, rewrite the thing that's starting to decline, rewrite the thing that I think has a lot of potential because it's like it's been linked to, it's on my site, it's getting traffic maybe from other pages, but it's not performing as well anymore. But the thing's like kind of out of date. I look at it, I'm just not proud of it anymore. It's in the book, and the book's getting read by people's wives. I need to update that thing. Or maybe it's just relevant to sales. Bottom of funnels is important, and if it's relevant to sales and your team is talking about it to prospects, polish that thing up. But I like your point. It's the intent and understanding and mapping it to the buyer journey. Isn't it funny? There's a lot of marketers who are just sort of fixated on the top of the funnel, and other marketers are fixated on the bottom of the funnel. That bias is a problem.
Yep. No, if you just took that last block that you just said, that's like content planning in 5 minutes. It's like it's like the one page or the critical assessment plan that can drive your entire boat. I mean, it's things that I'm not proud of anymore. It's things that I've rested on my laurels on. These are in striking distance. These are things that have declined for some of the related topics. Or I love this. Is this SERP durable? I've actually never used that phrase. I'm going to start using it. That in Hawaii. But the SERP flux, or the fluctuation, isn't necessarily the same. It's one could, because you have new people entering the space. So having a solution that can audit that topic, not just the my coverage, but my competitive coverage, and keeping that up to date. There's a punchline here. obviously.
Hmm.
Keeping that up to date with recurring analysis is key. I mean, and that is such a clutch reference. And so create those reasons to act for your business and say, when these events occur or when I feel a certain way about a page, I'm going to do this. I mean, that's brilliant advice. I mean, that's the takeaway. The takeaway certainly from this discussion is to say, when that happens, move and move quick and don't slow down, and that's key. So that was awesome, really awesome commentary. I've got a ton of questions,
Oh,
so
great.
let's move over to that. So one cool one, I love this from Sharon. I'm noticing a difference in Google seeming to rank lead generation sites better than actual companies because their content looks like mini Wikipedias on a focused topic. How do you compete
Mm.
against a topic focused site? And that's a cool question.
Oh, I've been thinking a lot about this. So for like 15 years, I ranked #1 for Chicago web design and generated millions of dollars in business from that key phrase and that page and that conversion. What happened since then is that the aggregator sites or like the content sites who publish like the top, it's like uh, like a directory of web designers is now outranking me. I'm like the top ranked company, but there's like, so in industries that are very mature, the top ranked pages are often aggregators, content sites, media sites, directories, and the company itself, it's like fortress SEO. Your best hope is to rank right outside the fortress. And it's not going to change because those companies do a great job of satisfying the visitor's intent, which is to evaluate several possible companies. They don't want to go through Google and click back and forth and look at 10 companies in Google. They'd rather land on a page that has, it's like airline tickets. Back in the early days of the internet, if you searched for a ticket, you would have found an airline ranking #1 for that. Now the only people that rank high for tickets are the travel sites, right? The OTMs or whatever they call it, OTCs. So it's just the reality of search, and you can still fight and win qualified visitors, but it's tough because those lead gen aggregators, directories, roundups, media sites have this kind of natural advantage both in a domain authority and in satisfying for intent.
Yeah, I like to see that is perfectly said. And having managed a large publishing network focused on lead generation, truly, this question hits home. The things to think about is you have to watch what they do. Oftentimes, them getting big and becoming aggregators means that they're not moving as fast as you are. You can beat Wikipedia this way as well. So watching what these aggregators are going to do, what they're likely to do in the future, and you can win. You can kind of pick them apart in some of these situations too. That's something to consider.
Hmm.
There's also, you want to watch the click-through rate change. When they came into town, how did your drop or your movement of rankings change the actual traffic? Did it change the traffic that much? Did it increase or decrease your conversion opportunity or your conversions? And what can you do to think critically about that? This happens a lot in local, in high cost lead industries in local. So that's something to be thinking about is, can you predict their next move in a way that they're likely not to, because they're not thinking critically at the global scale. You're in that local scale. So that'd be something from a Chicago web design that you'd have to do too. But yeah, this happens in a lot of cases where software selection is another one where
Yeah.
there's a ton of great content sites, and then major publishers, the IACs of the world are trying to hit
Yeah.
every vertical with their content. So it's a good piece of
Yeah.
advice there.
And
Yeah,
you can write for major publishers. You can
yeah,
be included in that roundup. You
yeah.
can be, if you know an editor or a columnist who's writing about that topic and they include you in it, that's Barnacle SEO. You might get a ton of quality referral traffic.
That works, folks. That's another piece of advice to take away. Get to know the publishers. Get in those boxes.
Yeah.
Get yourself a chance to be on, Search Engine Journal or something like that.
Hmm.
But that's a good point question. Another question, Cody. How much value do you place on a content marketer understanding, in his reference, natural language processing or artificial intelligence semantic analysis?
Well, I have a really basic and bootstrapped approach to semantic SEO, which is just to search for the target key phrase, uh, and then look at all of the suggested phrases in the top of the Google search box, look at the Q&A boxes, people also ask boxes, look at the related searches at the bottom, make a list, pencil and paper of all those related phrases and incorporate those into my topic. You can do pretty good semantic SEO just like that. If you've got MarketMuse, if you've got SEMrush, there's other tools that'll help you do a better job of that because they'll really analyze all the content on all the other pages. So the next level up from the no cost way to do it, from the bootstrap way to do it, is really going to give you a lot better results. But you don't really need to understand artificial intelligence or machine learning. You're just looking for all the related subtopics and incorporating those into your article, and then you covered off on the basic semantics, which is the foundation of RankBrain and Google's machine learning algorithm updates, just by improving the quality of your content, I think. I mean, does that answer it, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, these things that are being changed, it's all for the purpose of getting the person to their answer. So are you providing that exhibition that you are that subject matter expert more consistently? And that's the output of the work. I mean, we're not using artificial intelligence to use it. We're using it so that we can take the right action that gives us the best return on investment. So we write this article, we write it, and it's equal to or better than our competitors every time. We're not writing it for, to hit on this, magic, AI driven thing. It's so that then we put ourselves in our best possible situation. So I think that that's ideally said. Here's another interesting one. Why do, and I think there's I'm going to riff on this a little bit. This is from Ruth Ann. Why do some websites with content that isn't comprehensive, and that through traditional measures of authority or off-page factors, they're not, they don't have those metrics that you could quantify with a search engine optimization solution? Why are there situations where those pages can do well? That's one of these. That's such a fun question, I think, and there's so many answers to this. But I'd love for you to give us your feedback on situations where you see people so artificially punching above their weight, and you're like, why?
Yeah. These are unanswerable questions ultimately, but it's really interesting to hypothesize. I'm a Moz user, and I teach people how to do SEO and authority and link building through Moz. And when you turn on Moz bar and you scroll and you look through the overlaid search results that show the authority metrics down the page, people immediately say, wait, why does that one rank? It's a 48 above it and it's a 56 below it, and that's only a 12. Why is that 12 there in the middle? A couple of ideas. One is that these are the traditional, I like the way she put it, the traditional link authority metrics. Those are proxy tools. That's not Google. You don't know. These are just mortals, right? Trying to emulate what 2,000 math PhDs have built into a system, having iterated for 20 years. So it's uncertain really how close these things come, and they do correlate with rankings, but there's so many exceptions. And then there's all the user intent signals that we could never measure. We'll never know, because you'd have to have access to everybody's analytics to see that page that ranks well, but has low, even if the Moz authority metrics do correlate with Google's invisible page rank metric, that there may be a user intent, a user interaction signal that is off the charts for that page, because a huge percentage of people who land on it are digging deeper, are spending more time, are clicking through, are sending data to Google that says that this is satisfying the visitor's intent very well.
It's right on. And the key, I would say, my response to this would be figure out why. It's so valuable to figure out why. Is it because the team has built up an infrastructure, built up that rock underneath the island, and they're pointing power externally and internally? They're pointing it to that landing page.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. When you find that, that's very telling. Find the landing pages that are ranking and they shouldn't be, because it gives you the answer key.
Yeah, they may have written 5 amazing pieces of original research that surround this thing in a huge cluster, and they all have attracted massive amounts of authority, and they're passing huge page authority to that page. It's if you put them in a Moz and look at top pages, you might find out that there's like a page living right next, there's a skyscraper next door to that little house that's turned that into a popular street, you know?
Yes, there may be CRM focused companies that one could research and find example after example of that. I'll just leave it there. So anyway, on another topic, is there anything publishers can do to improve performance of articles that generate seasonal organic traffic? What do you do with seasonal traffic generators when it's not that season?
Boy, I'm going to get into the area of SEO superstition because I know SEOs who believe that 301 redirects pass 100% of authority. I am not one of those SEOs. If it was true that a 301 redirect would pass 100% of authority with no link, degradation or whatever they call it, then during that season, you could redirect a bunch of high authority pages to your seasonal pages. That doesn't work, right? I don't think that works. So that's evidence that that a 301 redirect does not pass 100% of link equity. Okay. Separate from that, what should you do? Start doing influencer content, collaboration, guest blogging early, prior to that season. And secondly, when the new season rolls around, don't keep spawning and launching new URLs. Repurpose old high authority URLs when that new season comes. I think recycling, repurposing URLs by updating old content. And when you do this a few times, you realize you should never ever put a date in a URL. Because if it's like holiday gifts for men 2019 is your URL, bummer. If 5 gift roundups from media sites linked to that URL, and now you want to recycle that next year by making it another great roundup of gift ideas for men, you've got the date in there. URLs should never ever include dates and should never ever include formats like webinar or podcast or something.
That's a deep content strategy, like unpacking to that question. I think it's really great. It's something that we do with clients certainly, is how do I situate myself when I have a roundup, when I have time sensitive items that are relevant to my business. Is it advice for 2019? But I also want to give advice generally, and I also want to give advice, and I also have advice from the past that still may have some value. How do I structure that content pool? How do I structure that content pool appropriately? On the seasonal side, a same situation. It's proper planning of what is there a page that's going to the content is going to flash. Flashing isn't a bad word for SEO. It's you're planning to flash that content. Where else will it go? Is it a page that's about the same topic? You don't want to do that and keep on building and redirecting and creating that trauma. And the redirection, like you talked about, is something that can create that that trauma. It also creates confusion as to what these pages are actually about. So I think that could be another 2 hours of discussion, but it's an awesome question. About get prepared with where you're going to put the stuff if you're going to move it, and elevate that page. Get power to that page. Get power to the next 3 years pages that are in planning. Get ahead of it. Cool. And last question. We got a lightning round here. It's one that is, I'm going to truncate it because it would be like about 17 questions. But it is a hotly contested discussion about keyword cannibalization. Does it truly exist? And I assume by the writer's question, they're saying, is keyword cannibalization real, in that if I have multiple pages shooting for the same keyword, I can cause damage?
I'm not afraid of keyword cannibalization any more than I'm afraid of duplicate content. I'm totally unafraid of duplicate content. I reviewed a site yesterday. We're launching it soon. Giant tech company. Their homepage is about search. Actually, it's like AI-powered search engine. It's for internal search engines within giant companies. And they got an interior page that's also talking about that specifically. It's like the AI-powered search engine page. The home page targets a key phrase, very, very similar content on an interior page. Google is going to figure it out. It's not going to be, so what's the hypothesis? Oh, this page is about that and this page is also about that, therefore Google won't like either page. It's a weird idea. Google's looking for one thing, the best page on the internet for that topic. If you've got 2 pages that are closely related, it's just going to pick one. I had an article a guest post about content marketing metrics. It ranked on page 1 for content marketing metrics. I had an idea about a year later to write something different on that topic. So I wrote another article about content marketing metrics. It gradually surpassed the rank of the other page, and now that new page ranks. The idea that you're cannibalizing, it sounds like you're losing something. You just have, there's all kinds of pages on the internet that compete for every phrase, every topic. Just because 2 of them are yours, why is that bad? Make the best page on the internet for your topic, period. That's, if there's a page right next door to it that's pretty closely related, so what? Google wants to find the best page. If you made it, you've got a good chance.
We're going to put that in block letters on the wall in the office. Make the best page on the topic that you care about on the internet every time. I think that that's awesome advice to close out with. What I'll mention also on that is if the question is, should I build long form or short form? That's not the question anymore, folks. You got to build collections of content that speak to all the user intent profiles. And if you think it's duplication, well, take a different angle with your secondary page, and see what other related topics that page ends up ranking for, because you took a different angle, you targeted towards a different audience, you did something unique and differentiated, and see what happens. Then you're not, again, talking about cannibalization, you're talking about differentiation. You're not putting the same content item on there. It's just hate to say it, but it's a little bit on the questionable side to think that because you think the keyword is the focus, that the page actually focuses on that keyword. But I'll close on that. Just promoting, Andy, tell us a little bit about this book that I pre-promoted, Content Chemistry. Like, what was the inspiration as we close up?
Well, I'm going to optimize it for great gifts for her. It's going to be a Valentine's Day gift starting next February. We're ready for that flash ranking. No, it's in its 5th edition. I know that universities use it. I know that marketing teams use it as a training guide. It is called Content Chemistry. It's if you find it on Amazon, make sure you're looking at the 5th edition. It has 120 pages more than the 4th edition. It's been completely rewritten, and it's everything I know about content marketing between 2 covers. It's every page should have actionable insights. That's the goal of the book.
And it does, I have to say. There are 3 books, and I'm not going to plug the other ones. There's 3 books I give out to people. This is one of them. It's really, really awesome, and it's really been a pleasure for you to join us today. I think there's so many great takeaways. What I also, from a MarketMuse perspective, we have a new solution, part of our reports offerings. It's the topic report. It gives you an automatic assessment of where you stand on a topic with your website, shows you the competitive landscape, deep dive analysis of every article in that competitive landscape, also gives you a heat map view, insights about what you should do to improve your positioning on this topic so that you can produce content that is the best on the topic every time. Go to marketmuse.com, topic report, fill out the form, you get a free report if you are listening to this or the replay. Also, go buy the book and go see Andy. What's the next few events you'll be at?
I'm going to be at MozCon next month. Awesome. Which I'm excited about. That's in Seattle. I'm in Marketing Profs for the B2B Forum. That's in Washington, D.C. Later this year. Our own conference is called Content Jam. That's October 29th. You can find me all over the place. Probably LinkedIn is my best network, so connect with me there and ask me anything.
Awesome. Yeah, if the conference says content in it, Andy's probably there. And we'll leave it on that. Thank you again, and check out the replay when you get it, and again in our archive. And thank you so much for joining us for another MarketMuse Content Strategy webinar. Cheers.
Thanks, Bye, guys.
Bye.